just like to say that it's a really, really great pleasure to be here today and talk to you all. We were really devastated to hear about the two boys that took their life, and we really hope that there's, that you can take something from today and hopefully help other students.
And hopefully we can shed some light and open the channels of communication between you and your learners today through our own experiences and through other people's experiences that we've come across.
Right. Well, we obviously have first-hand experience with suicide and suicide attempts and thoughts and feelings, but everyone's different, and it's hard to say for the individual what you should do, because obviously some people might deal with it in a different way, and it can be things like planning it for weeks or months, or it could be 5 minutes beforehand and just thinking, you know what, I've had enough, and not being able to wait. So, and also things like that. I mean, I got a quote that said, the problem for me is suicidal thoughts. Because I have been suicidal in the past, suicidal thoughts come automatically to me when I get stressed. They are horrible and frightening. So it's a bit of a problem, because once you've thought about it and once you've attempted it, it can so quickly come back to you.
And the length of time for each person, as Kim said, between getting the suicidal thoughts and acting on the suicidal thoughts could be really long. It could be on impulse, it could be within a few minutes, it could be within hours, weeks, months, anything. And it would be unrealistic for us to say that none of your learners will experience suicidal thoughts, or that someone may not attempt suicide again. But by today, we're hoping that it will help you to be able to find the warning signs in young people and approach them in a safe way.
Okay. As I've said, each case is different. The use of the word prevention could just be seen as futile. We continue to stress that there isn't one thing anyone can do. At the end of the day, all you can do as teachers or supporters, anything, is just be there for them and just to listen, because you can't say to them, you can't do this, you will not do this. And I think the most helpful thing for me was just having someone to talk to. I don't know about you, but there's not really anything else that you expect.
I mean, one thing that I was saying to Rona the other day on the phone when she asked me about what someone could do to prevent suicide, or what they could do, and someone was thinking about suicide, what one thing could happen. And I was like, well, there isn't one thing that can happen, because everyone is different. And if it's young people, if it's like two friends that are speaking with each other, then the friend shouldn't be scared that their friend is suicidal. They should try and see if they will go and talk to a learner or another member of staff to a student and approach the situation. And if they won't, then they should tell them that they are going to tell another member of staff, but by telling them first, and they're aware of the situation, and then they won't be as angry later on, because for a short while they will be a bit angry with their friend for telling. But as I said, that's short-lived.
The one thing that I think we both struggle with the most is the confidentiality. It's kind of a lose-lose, because if someone comes to you and says, right, I feel suicidal, I'm planning to do something, the first thing you're going to do or want to do is keep them safe. So you're going to think, right, I need to tell their parents or whoever it is, as you said, that one person that we feel safe talking to. But I think that in some way that can really, really lose their trust, and they may not be able to say it again. So it's really hard, like, how you approach it. And I mean, it's happened to me before, I don't know about you, but where you go to talk to someone and they say, if you tell me that you're going to hurt yourself, I'm going to have to tell someone. And then you think, oh,
then you
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah. So somewhere along the line you will all have to discuss how you can strike that middle ground with your learners, and each case has to be taken differently because you have to think about the other situations. They're not just a learner, they've got loads of other situations going on around them, be it at home, in college itself, and they're growing up and growing into independence, as Rona and Lindsay have said. So that has to be taken into consideration as well. Each is a case-by-case thing. It's individual to the person.
I know that we're giving our own experiences, but I also did a bit of research onto you've done statistics, but things like you may feel suicidal for no apparent reason. You may think that you have no reason to want to kill yourself. This can trigger feelings of deep guilt and shame, and you may find it difficult to tell others what you're going through. So I think it's really difficult, and I mean, I felt like that before, you know, not having an actual reason. So if you go up to someone and says, look, say, I'm thinking of killing myself, I mean, you wouldn't approach it like that, but it's difficult because the reaction that you would get is, well, you don't have a reason to, you have everything to live for, and that can be really hard to hear.
And as well, we said that it's a cumulative thing, so it might not be just one thing that's happened, say a bereavement in the family or something. It could be a course of small things that have led up to this, to them feeling so depressed and hopeless. So it can be, it can seem when you talk to someone that it's an argument with a friend or a piece of work that's late and that is causing them so much pain, but it's not. That'll just be the straw that broke the camel's back, as the old phrase says. So
yeah, and also it can be, I mean, it may feel like it's the worst thing in the world because there's going to be a lot of stuff buried down. And I remember breaking down crying because a teacher shouted at me for being late. I was 5 minutes late, and she said, you know, you're late, and just really had a go at me, and I just cried and thought, oh my God, I can't cope with this. And then I thought, well, why am I thinking of killing myself because I was late to a lesson? But it's actually, you know, you really, really can't cope with what's going on, and it can be anything so small that can just push you over the edge.
When things started to become difficult for me, and I'd been depressed for a long time, suicide quickly became an ideal solution. When I first was getting thoughts, I shrugged them off. Perhaps I was scared. But then at the same time, I wanted it so badly. My teachers obviously couldn't cope either. I was dropping hints left, right and centre, but at the same time, I was a closed book. I got into a negative friendship with the girl. She was also struggling too with her own issues. Our problems became entrenched, and within a few weeks, we had attempted suicide 3 times. All the attempts were in school. Since then, I have tried at least another 6 times. On the 2 occasions from those attempts that we were hospitalised, the staff came with us to the hospital, and they were really supportive and comforting, and they stayed there till our parents got there with us, and they weren't angry. And then I went to the McGuinness Adolescent Unit. After I came out of the McGuinness Unit, and during my whole stay there, my teachers from my school were really supportive. They engaged and liaised with the services and with my local CAMS team. And they came up with a safety plan as well that was personalised to me. And luckily I haven't had to use that much. And I can surely say that I'm stronger, and I've built up other mechanisms that I can use instead of self-harm, or I know what to do when I'm feeling suicidal.
Actually, I've got a bit written down, but the other day when we were sort of going through this, we met up and we were actually talking about, you know, suicide attempts or risky behaviours, or some things that can actually be self-harm, like overdosing. And we were actually shocked at each other how many times we've actually taken an overdose. And I remember mine was over 13, and previous to that we were saying 16. We were saying we were just
like
joking.
16's bad,
Yeah.
and then we were just like, what are we saying? 1's bad.
Yeah.
1 overdose.
And then we counted them. But I actually, you know, you said actually to refer to your story you said about your friend, your negative friendship. When I was in hospital, I made friends with these 2 girls, and we made a really unhealthy pact that if one of us died, the other 3 had to as well. So if one of us took our lives, we all had to. And I think you said that as well. You mentioned in hospital that people were making those kind of deals. So I think that if 2 people are struggling, it's really, really unhelpful. They can sort of drag each other into things.
And I remember after the first attempt with this friend, once we'd got back into school and the teachers had tried so hard to keep us apart from each other, but we resisted, and then in the end they just gave up, and that just ended in another suicide attempt, another 2 suicide attempts, one after another.
Right, and finally the last thing I've got to say is when I took my last suicide attempt, I had ran away and I left a suicide note on my bed for my parents to find. I remember it got really late, it was raining, it was cold, and I was sat in an alleyway. It wasn't the nicest or safest place to sit. I wanted to go home, but I couldn't. I was too scared, and I knew that I had to go through with it, and that it was too late to turn back. And the thing is, I thought that my parents would be a lot angrier if I turned up home than if I didn't and let the police carry on searching for me. I thought my mum would shout at me and get really angry for leaving a suicide note, which is understandable, but I wasn't thinking about the fact that if I had died, how she would have felt then. And I think a part of it is what people might think is selfish, is that you don't think about sort of the impact on other people, because I mean, for me personally, it was because I didn't think anyone would care anyway. So it wasn't like, oh, I can't do that to my mum, I can't do that to my family or friends. It was like, well, it wouldn't matter if I did it. So I think that's a big thing as well. And, you know, you can say, well, think about your parents, think about your family, your siblings. It might just seem like, well, you know, they're better off without me. So
I think as well, someone had said when they were putting the words up, attention. And one thing that I'd like to say is that it isn't attention seeking. And what you are doing, what the person is doing when they are suicidal, is they're thinking about the person. Most people think that it's all selfish and it's all just about them, but it's not. They actually don't think about themselves. They think about everyone else around them, and think about how they're better off without them. So it's the most unselfish thing. And we actually heard that from a mother who lost her son last year, and she was speaking at the presentation which Talia Bell came to, and it was devastating. But it was so amazing to meet this woman, because she just spoke with such amazing. I don't know. She was just so. She was really inspirational. Inspirational, yeah. And she made us think as well.
the impact.
Yeah.
That made us realise what we can do to the family.
Thank you very much.